Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll defer to our ranking member, Mr. Joyce, for questions first.
First, thank you all for being here. And Chairman Wildcat, you were talking about the mercury. I see in your testimony the mercury concentrations. Is that from previous mining incidents that have the mercury that's in the lakes?
The mercury is a combination probably of air quality. When it rains, we get that mercury. But we also have issues with mining in our location, in our area in Wisconsin. It's a very big concern.
I know it's part of the Great Lakes that there's been a problem with both the perch and walleye and the concentrations of mercury. They're saying about only can eat so much at any given time. So I can understand and appreciate it. I was just wondering where it was coming from.
Yes, mercury has an effect on pregnant females. They are restricted from consuming mercury-laden fish. In our area, there's various lakes that have a high level of mercury, and the consumption of the fish are restricted.
Thank you all again, and I yield back.
Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Wildcat, please keep the committee posted through memos or emails, however it's most convenient for you, how your discussions are going with the EPA. I'm very concerned about your testimony about lost fund, and that the state also has a portion of helping to prioritize and do things with that too. And I hope you're having discussions with your new governor on that issue. You also mentioned the mining a little bit, and that's something that I know that the tribal nations between Minnesota and Wisconsin are very concerned about with all the mining that's going in, because we see these people see the water on the surface, but we know there's water underneath the surface and everything's commingling. So I appreciate you bringing that forward. Chronic wasting disease also was something in your testimony, and it's something that we're going to be looking into. We've touched on it before, but it is something that we're going to look into more. And that's also in it has a two-step process, because the Food and Drug Administration, which is in the Department of Agriculture, has a little something to do with that. So I'm on the Agriculture Committee, so I'll be asking about that. But the one thing I wanted to really ask you was, you in your discussions with the EPA, you have the right to clean up to your standards.
Correct. Yes.
And I want to make sure that the EPA is acknowledging that sovereign right to clean up to your standards, as it does with any state or local government. So really quick, I'm sure Mr. Simpson knows a lot more about fires, so I'm going to ask him more about this joint fire service that you mentioned in your testimony, Mr. Stearns, to make sure we're doing that right for training in that. Could you maybe a little more on that?
Well, I think what you're talking about is the Joint Fire Science Project.
Science project.
Yeah, it's a research effort that's funded, I believe, through the U.S. Forest Service, but definitely looking at fire research and getting that information out to the field to apply to management strategies. Well, it's not necessarily training, but a lot of information.
It's more research-based.
Yeah.
And after you have the information, you know how to train up.
Yes.
Okay, and so I'm going to look into see how involved tribes are in consultation and doing the research, because you have your own DNRs and scientists looking at your forest. And the last thing I have is Mr. Johnson. You're looking to have a second road, because how many years is it before you think you're going to finally agree, plan, and move? And I wish you weren't having to move your tribe due to climate change. So I don't think this is a happy thing that you're going through. But how long? What do you really think the process is going to be if everybody stuck to their timeline and there was no backpedaling? What do you think this process is going to be?
Yeah, even if we had everything in line, funding-wise, permit-wise, we foresee this process taking anywhere 7 to 10 years. And so we are really concerned with that timeline, obviously, because the effects only seem to worsen as the years go on and amplify. And from an emergency access standpoint, whenever there's serious weather, flooding, even over Christmas, we didn't have access to our main villages. We had to ask our elders and other folks to drive through these forested service roads, and we do our best with the resources at our disposal, but it becomes quite troubling when you're not able to access your own home. And when the electricity goes out and things that are essential to everyday life, we're the last on the road to be considered when those things need to be fixed. So it's a long process, 7 to 10 years.
Mr. Simpson.
Thank you, and thank you all for being here today. Joseph, believe me, you don't have any more trouble with OMB than we do. Maybe we need to work together and attack OMB because there's a problem there. But let me ask you about the forestry program. Where does the revenue go that you get from timber sales?
Thank you. It varies by tribe, but it definitely goes out. And I don't know the specific answer, an across-the-board answer. Definitely varies by tribe. And I can say for my own tribe, the Spokane, is it provides money for education and health care a little bit. And like I said, it just varies. I really can't give you a specific answer.
But it doesn't necessarily go back into the forestry program.
Some of it does into the forest development program and replanting and thinning.
You know that there's no, in federal law anyway, there's no requirement that you do reforestation after wildfire. But there is after, if you go out and do a timber harvest, you have to do reforestation as part of the plan. I've thought about trying to change the federal law so that you have to do reforestation after wildfires because they're obviously just as devastating, if not more devastating, than timber harvest. But it'd be interesting to know how the resources. We're short in all these areas, not just on tribal lands, but also on Forest Service lands in reforestation, hazardous fuels management, all of those types of things. We're hopeful that with the new way of funding wildfires, it will free up some money to be able to do some of these things. But I would be interested in knowing across those tribes that have forest lands and stuff where the revenue goes and what they do with it.
I think, again, I don't know the specific answer and across the board, but I could get back to you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks. Vice Chair Johnston, first, thank you for highlighting the threats that your tribe is facing in the face of climate change. I had an opportunity to go out to your village just a few weeks back, and in fact, one of the lanes of the road was closed because of a landslide from a severe storm. So what was already only a 2-lane road was down to 1 lane. I can't count how many times we've worked with your nation when there was a breaching of your seawall and severe flooding, because you're right there, right on the ocean. I can appreciate the interest, and I think we all understand the interest in relocating your communities to higher ground. We're, I think, also conscious of the fact that the BIA doesn't have any dedicated funding for that purpose. So give us some guidance. What if you could have this committee help ensure that the federal government enables you to, to relocate it and to meet its obligation? What would you like to see us do?
I think what would help is if there were explicit resources available for the reasons that I mentioned. Your point is very spot on. There's different pots of resources that we're able to access, but none of them explicitly are because of land loss, dislocation, all of those issues. And so having a resource that was intentional, especially for tribes that were impacted by that, uniquely impacted by that because of geography and other reasons, I think would be the most helpful way to address these issues. Because we are really creative. We're a timber nation too, and so we do utilize our revenue that we gain from forestry to reinvest the land, relocate and invest in housing because of our unique situation and needs. But I think having intentional resources to access that are dedicated for tribes facing those issues is what's needed in today's time.
Thank you. I yield back, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And if I could have unanimous consent to add to the record what Mr. Wildcat has given us with more information, and you will keep us in contact about what the EPA are doing. Is there any objection? Hearing none, so ordered. We're going to thank you very much, gentlemen, and I have to say you were spot on with all your testimony in that. So you've set a high bar for everybody else coming behind this panel. So thank you very much. If the second panel will please join us, we have the Executive Director, Valerie Gersing, the National Association of Tribal Historic Preservation Officers, Brian Newland, President of the Chippewa-Ottawa Resource Authority, President of the Intertribal Buffalo Council, Mr. Carlson. Please join us.